The first unit that is one of the strongest slot 1 units in the game is SCR, Super Saiyan Blue Goku. He's insanely strong turn 1 if you're running a Super Class or Future Saga team, which again you should be for the most part, especially with his leader skill being Future Saga and Fuse Fighters. There's a bunch of very strong Super Class allies you can run on the team in order for him to get his damage reduction and dodge. If you are able to fulfill the conditions of having Super Class allies or Future Saga allies on the team, along with attacking next to a Future Saga ally, or the entire rotation is Future Saga, you get 80% dodge and 70% damage reduction. That is a very strong slot 1 unit, but I will say my biggest gripe is he doesn't have guard. Again, I know he can get guard off of Vegeta's active skill, but it's only for 4 turns. If that was permanent, that would be a really good active skill condition. It would make him insane. But to me, when we're going to get more bosses, for example, we could get a really strong AGL boss who lowers defense. And this unit would be cooked because he has no guard to counteract something like that. And 70% damage reduction is good, along with his 1.1 million defense. But at the same time, there's definitely going to be issues if he is facing a AGL enemy. Now, again, we don't exactly have that yet. We haven't seen what the meta is going to look like. But, you know, I mean, right now, he's a very strong slot 1 unit, but I would like to see how the meta progresses to see how dominant of a slot 1 unit they will end up being. Alright, the next unit that I think is a very strong slot 1 unit is the LR tag Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black. He's an insane slot 1 unit. I like him much better than I do the Blue Goku. I understand Blue Goku has 80% dodge and 70% damage reduction, which is really good, especially when you pop the Vegeta active skill, which allows you to dodge even if they have dodge canceling on the unit. It's going to age really well for them. But for me, having the guard a part of the unit is really, really good. Here's the thing, 60% damage reduction he gets with Extreme Class allies or Future Saga allies on a team, depending on which one has more. And then he gets guard if the whole rotation is Extreme Class or there's another Future Saga ally attacking in the same turn. So he has 10% less damage reduction, but he also has guard, which is way better in my opinion. Yes, he doesn't have the 80% dodge that the Blue Goku has, but in consistency of tanking, he's going to tank much better because of 60% damage reduction and guard. He also gets 180% defense when he's hit. He ends up around, I believe, 1.2 million defense before he supers and once he receives an attack. So 1.2 million defense, guard, and 60% damage reduction is very good for this unit, and the reason why I think he's one of the strongest slot 1 units as of right now. Alright, the next slot 1 unit is going to be a little less tanky than the last 2 we've talked about, but I want to bring up LR Tech Grade 8 Vegeta. Of course, he does need Super Saiyan 4 Goku to really reach the max peak of tanking, but still, I really enjoy him as a slot 1 unit. His insane amount of damage reduction paired with his guard makes him such an amazing unit in slot 1. And then, like I said, again, he has access to Super Saiyan 4 Goku to make him even stronger. So when you're running teams like AGL Gochita, you allow yourself to get a stronger tank because you can run Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Scatter Vegeta next to each other, and you're not forcing the situation. You know, or you could run Giant 8 Power, and he's on Giant 8 Power, right? You're not going to force a situation there, again, because you can pair Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Scatter Vegeta together, and they become an insane tanking duo. Again, I mean, it does suck that he does kind of rely on Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and you also need him to be Rainbow to be the highest level tank possible, but I still think he's one of the most elite slot 1 options we still have, and the reason why he's still a top 10 unit currently. The next unit I want to talk about is the Saiyan Day Kid Goku we got this year, and he is one of my favorite releases of the entire year. Again, I still do not think they should have released Episode 1 Kid Goku as a Saiyan Day selection. I mean, it could have been the DKP one, it could have been World Tournament, the 22nd World Tournament Kid Goku. You know, there's a lot of different options that should have been this slot, but they did make a really good unit. He's able to stack very quickly. I probably wouldn't run him slot 1, turn 1, but after you start to build up a little bit, you get his guard going, you know, you're building up his defense, he becomes quickly an elite slot 1 option. Of course, you do need to have his intro active for that 40% damage reduction. That is very important, or else he's just not going to be impressive at all, because the 60% damage reduction and the guard, which you would have for 7 turns, is really, really the reason why he's an elite slot 1 option. Of course, once you lose a 40% damage reduction, he can take a hit, but by that point, you've already stacked so much, and you have the active already going, and you know, he's already starting to look even more impressive even without the intro animation live. And then of course, let's not forget, he can just have a 100% dodge in the turn, but it only is a 22% chance to activate it. So like each hit, you'll have a 22% chance of dodging, and if you do dodge it, the rest of the dodges will be a guaranteed dodge as long as it wasn't a hidden potential dodge. So overall, he has a lot in his kit that makes him an elite slot 1 option. Tons of damage reduction, guard, stacks, 200% defense when receiving an attack. He also, once he attacks, can have 100% dodge, but you have to activate it first. So there's a lot of things in his kit that makes him an elite option, and the reason why he's the #1 T1 currently. Alright, the next unit I want to talk about is LR Tech Broly. I mean, he's nowhere near his glory days in terms of tanking, but he is still a very elite slot 1 option, especially because his base form has 90% damage reduction for the first turn in slot 1, and then of course when you go into Broly for the first 3 turns, you have 76% damage reduction. But what's even better is the fact that on his own team, you can run AGL Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which makes him even a better tank because in those 3 turns, instead of 76% damage reduction, you now have 86% damage reduction, and once you lose the extra 26%, you still have 60% damage reduction and guard if he's in slot 1, so it makes him a really, really strong unit. Again, he's nowhere near what he used to be, of course, but it is impressive how well he's aged in terms of being able to tank. He's a very good unit in short form content due to his high amounts of damage reduction within the first 4 turns, but at the same time, once you get into later fights, if he has AGL Super Saiyan 4 Goku next to him, he still can perform at an elite level and be able to tank some of the hardest hits we have in the game so far. Now, of course, this is subject to change as we're going to get more bosses. We have Boss Rush coming soon for the Divine Order and Mortal Will or something of that sort. But we have Boss Rushes coming for those, and they could be the strongest bosses in the game, and Broly could easily age out from there. But as of right now, with the bosses we currently have, he is still a very optimal option and a strong slot 1 unit. Alright, the next unit I want to look at is Fizz Tao, as he is an amazing slot 1 option if you're able to activate his intro animation. It isn't too hard to do. All you need is a mission execution category ally on the team in order to get that extra 50% damage reduction, which he really needs. He also gets some attack buffs and some other stuff, so that does help out a tiny bit. But again, the 50% damage reduction is a reason why he's able to go into slot 1, because he starts off with a base 30% damage reduction already. So once you get the intro up, you have 80% damage reduction for the rest of the fight, and that makes him really hard to kill. And then on top of that, you can pair him with Fizz Path to Power Goku, which both of them synergize really well with each other and have a decent amount of links, and that allows him to have 88% damage reduction while also having a ton of Rainbow Orbs on the field for him and Path to Power Goku to both be able to utilize, because Tao needs them to increase his attack, and Fizz Kid Goku needs that for his damage reduction. So overall, these two play really well off of each other, and again, Tao with 88% damage reduction, and his counterattack, which works against Super Saiyan Blue Goku, makes him one of the most elite slot 1 options we currently have. Alright, the next unit that I think is a very strong slot 1 unit is, of course, the generational unit himself, LRSTR Beast Gohan, who I don't care what people say is still very usable today. He can even dominate in long form meta. I really think his only bad fight right now is the Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta fights, but even then, he doesn't perform terribly in there, at least in the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta fight. Super Saiyan Blue Goku fight, he definitely does not perform well in, but regardless, the reason why I bring that up is because of the fact that he has 80% damage reduction if you take 8 hits in battle before the intro goes off. He has guard, his active skill, which gives him 158% defense and redirects all attacks towards him, making him a very good tank. And then his damage is nothing crazy, but it doesn't really matter when the entire time you are unkillable. Now, again, once his intro animation wears away and you lose that 40% damage reduction, he can start to take damage, but if you have All in the Family active and he's rainbowed, he can survive AGL Full Power Jiren's super attack in the Goku USS Story Red Zone, and without his active or without his intro animation. And that's how impressive this unit has been. It's pretty insane that people are just trying to find ways for this unit to age out, and I get it, the meta could be getting longer and longer, and they could be hitting harder and harder outside of his intro animation, which could age him out. But the issue is I'm pretty sure we're going to go into a short form meta, at least what it sounds like. I'm just soft confirming. And if that's the case, he gets an insane amount of value. If you are able to use this unit in short form meta, he is going to age miraculously, and his value just gets higher and higher. Alright, the next unit I want to talk about is LRSTRTN. I mean, I'm not very impressed with him at 55%, but with the showcases I've seen with him at 100%, I can see how elite of a slot 1 tank he can be once you're able to keep him in slot 1 and build up that damage reduction, you know, that 95% damage reduction turn before attacking, and then the high damage reduction after post super and all that stuff. He can look pretty impressive, especially with all the multiplicative stats he gets in slot 1 after attacking. But again, at 55% he's nothing crazy, but when he's at 100%, he is one of the strongest tanks in the entire game. It just shows you how important the hidden potential system is, because you can go from underwhelming to like a top 7 LR just because you got dupes of a unit, and it's just crazy to see the giant swing between the two. And it's just something to note about, because again, this unit definitely deserves its flowers for being a really good LR, especially for a yellow coin LR. But again, if you don't have many dupes in them, you probably wouldn't agree. Again, I don't agree. But again, from what I've seen with 100% TN, I gotta put him on this list. I cannot leave him out, because he has some impressive numbers, especially on his active skill turn. Alright, the next slot 1 unit that I think is very strong is the Super Saiyan 2 Kale as part of the LR Kale and Caulifla tag unit. Being able to get 66% defense for every key allows this unit to be extremely tanky. Then she also guards all attacks unconditionally, and she can hit pretty hard once you get the active skill up and you're at 24 key. But the thing that makes her so good is, again, the 66% defense per every key she gets. You have to get her at 24 key in order to be good, though, otherwise you'll see an underwhelming performance from her. But luckily, her active skill allows her to get enough key. She gets 6 key on her active skill, which allows you to easily get to that 24 key, allowing you to run her in slot 1 comfortably. She is definitely a great slot 1 unit, especially for Universe 6. She can have some issues, especially at 55%. At 100%, she does look a lot better. But overall, she's a decent slot 1 unit. I mean, definitely not as dominant as some of the other ones you listed previously, but I still think she definitely deserves to be noted in this list. The next unit I want to talk about is Super EZA Rose Goku Black, and they absolutely cooked with him. His EZA was pretty decent, but there was no signs of telling us that this unit was going to end up becoming a dominant slot 1 unit. He has 20% damage reduction just off rip, and then he gets 50% damage reduction after he takes 2 hits in the turn, because he gets 25% damage reduction per hit he takes in the turn. And then if the entire rotation is extreme class, or there is a Future Saga ally attacking in the same turn, he gets guard. So this unit in slot 1, after 2 attacks, can have 70% damage reduction and guard, and on his initial receiving of an attack, he gets a multiplicative 200% defense, and if he's under 70% HP, he gets an additional 100% defense. So this unit is very, very, very tanky. It is quite impressive how strong they made his Super EZA. It just helps make the Super Bosses team flow a ton more when you have slot 1 units like STR Rose, Super EZA, Rose Goku Black, you know, and we're probably going to see some more with the Tech Corrupted Zamasu, Super EZA. We could see a Tech Rose Masu, the LR1, Super EZA. There's a ton of options still left for this team to improve, but this Rose is very impressive in slot 1. Alright, the next unit I want to talk about is both of the EZA Year 7 fusion units, the Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, and the Tech Gods. The reason why I want to talk about them specifically, though, is because they deserve to be on this list due to how strong they become after stacking. When you go into the blues, or when you go into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, there can end up being some insanely strong slot 1 options. But my issue is always going to be the fact that after turn 1, when they have their 77% damage reduction god, they are no longer elite slot 1 units until they stack a little bit more. So, when you have these units outside of turn 1, they're really not a slot 1 unit until you either get into the fusions or blues, or you just get enough stacks where you're able to tank these bosses with raw stats again. So, you know, I have to include them on the list because Gogeta and the Blues are insanely strong, especially when you get some stacks on them. But they also are not just, like, by nature, a true, consistent slot 1 unit. And finally, we're going to talk about the Year 10 fusions, Super Vegeta and Super Gogeta, who are insane slot 1 options when you either tag on turn 4 or when you go into Super Vegeta or Super Gogeta, especially after you got on some stacks. They're pretty much unkillable. I will say these units, again, kind of the same principle as the last units. They're not true slot 1 units, but they have a lot more slot 1 potential over the Year 7s due to the fact that on turn 4, you can go into their defensive versions of these units, the Angel Super Saiyan Goku, the Angel Super Saiyan Vegeta. You know, both those units are very tanky. Like Angel Goku has an 80% dodge, guard, multiplicative defense on hit. Vegeta's got the guard and the 70% damage reduction. So they both are very solid tanks, and they both stack defense. So, you know, the more stacks they get, the tankier they become. But again, that's the reason why I had to include them on this list, because again, they are very strong slot 1 options when you tag. And then, of course, when you fuse, they are the most dominant slot 1 units in the entire game. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys think these units are the strongest slot 1 units in the game? Do you think some of these units should not have been on this list? Or do you think I missed out on somebody? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys enjoy the voice content, there's going to be a playlist. The first playlist is going to be all of my voiced content videos. And then below that, if you just want more Dokkan Battle content in general, right under that is going to be my Dokkan Battle content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.